Welcome back. In this lesson, we're going to learn how you can ask someone if they've ever done something before, or how you can say yourself whether you've done something before. And in order to do that, we're going to need to use the 보다 form, meaning to try, which we've already learned. Here's what that looks like. Conjugate an action verb as usual without attaching the 요 to the end. Then add 본 적이 있다 to say that you have ever done something, or 없다 instead to say that you haven't. And then conjugate that verb. For example, 한국에 가본 적이 있어요? Have you ever been to Korea before? 그걸 해본 적이 없어요. I've never tried doing that before. This 본 here comes from the verb 보다, and 적 means a time or an experience. So this form literally means to have, or to not have if you use 없다, the experience of trying to do something. So there's a little bit more to this form which we'll talk about in a moment, but first let's just take a look at a few examples of this form. 떡을 먹어본 적이 있어요? Have you ever eaten rice cake before? 배우를 만나본 적이 있어요? Have you ever met an actor before? 저는 외국에 가본 적이 없어요. I've never been to a foreign country before. 사실은 제가 빨래를 해본 적이 없어요. Actually, I've never done the laundry before. 사랑을 고백해 본 적이 있어요? Have you ever confessed your love before? 이 프로그램을 본 적이 있어요? Have you ever seen this program before? Note that when this form is used after 보다, meaning to see, it's not necessary to say 봐본. Since 본 already comes from 보다, just use 본 by itself. 세 번 정도 해본 적 있어요. I have tried it about 3 times before. 저는 그만큼 많이 먹어본 적이 없어요. I have never eaten that much before. So there are 2 more words that I want to talk about, which we just saw in the example sentences. Those are 정도 and 만큼. First, let's talk about 정도, which means about or approximately. The word 정도 is used when making a guess about an amount, and it's attached after a noun with a space. For example, 10분 정도 기다렸어요. I waited about 10 minutes. 500원 정도예요. It's about 500 won. 2시간 정도 일기를 쓰고 있었어요. I was writing a journal about 2 hours. 10g 정도 추가를 했어요. I added about 10 grams. The next word that I want to talk about a little bit is 만큼. And 만큼 literally means as much as, and it's also used when you're talking about an amount. To use it, attach it directly after a noun. For example, 윤소만큼 예의 바른 사람은 없어요. There's nobody as polite as 윤소. Or literally, there's no person who is polite as much as 윤소. 한식만큼 맛있는 음식이 없어요. There's no food as delicious as Korean food. 저는 선생님만큼 한국말을 잘 하지 못해요. I can't speak Korean well as much as the teacher. Or I can't speak Korean as well as the teacher. 이 차만큼 빠른 차가 없어요. There's no car as fast as this car. Alright, so let's next do a conversation practice using everything that we've covered so far in this lesson. We have 2 people, 정혁 and Minoo. First, 정혁 says, 형, 바빠요? Older brother, are you busy? 잠깐만 나와줘요. Please come out just a little bit. Or please come out for only a second. 제가 지금 주차장 앞에 있는데 주차를 못하겠어요. I am now in front of the parking lot, but I won't be able to park. 주차를 못해? You can't park? 정말? Really? 거기는 주차하기가 쉬운데. Over there, it is easy to park. Or parking is easy over there. 아니요, 저는 사실 주차를 해본 적이 없어요. No, I actually have never tried parking before. Or I've never parked before. 웃지 마세요. Don't laugh. 형만큼 운전을 잘 하지 못해요. I cannot drive well as much as you, older brother. Or I can't drive as well as you. 알았어. Okay, fine. Note, 알다, to know, can also be used in the past tense as 알았다, to mean to understand or to get something. Unlike 알겠다, which translates as to know or to understand, 알았다 sounds less polite, like saying okay, fine. 3분 정도 기다려. Wait about 3 minutes. 고마워요. Thank you.
형, 바빠요? 잠깐만 나와줘요. 제가 지금 주차장 앞에 있는데 주차를 못 하겠어요. 주차를 못해? 정말? 거기는 주차하기가 쉬운데? 아니요. 저는 사실 주차를 해본 적이 없어요. 웃지 마세요. 형만큼 운전을 잘 하지 못해요. 알았어. 3분 정도 기다려. 고마워요.
But before we go, a quick note about this form. This 본 적이 있다 form means that you have the experience of doing something before, or literally, that you have the experience of trying to do something before. However, to just say that you've tried something before, without having to emphasize that it was some kind of experience, you can just use the 보다 form instead, without this longer form. So in this lesson, we learned how you can say or ask someone that you've done something before. Practice everything here, and I'll see you again in the next lesson. 그럼 다음에 또 봐!